listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Shelby Skrhak, and our guest today is Brian Atwood, Senior Director of North American Sales for Elo. Brian, welcome.
Thank you, Shelby, and thank you for having me this morning. Good morning.
Of course. Well, today we are talking about Elo Touch products for the sports betting industry. But first, Brian, I think we'd like to introduce our audience to Elo. Tell us a little bit about the company, because I understand that it was really a pioneer in touch screen products, right?
It's a great starting point. Yeah, thanks, Shelby. So Elo dates back about 50 years, and we invented the touch screen. So first resistive touch screen back in 1971, and we've evolved from there and into touchscreen products as well as touchscreen systems. And where we make a business out of creating touch products for several different industries globally.
What are some of those industries that you provide products to?
Good question. So to start, retail and hospitality are two of our core industries and businesses. And when you look at retail and hospitality around there, you talk about point of sale within there or self-service. But as well, we've branched out into several different industries such as industrial, healthcare, and gaming. So we spread the gamut, really.
Well, I'm curious. So, I mean, I think we're familiar with these point of sale devices that in a restaurant servers can use. We're starting to see that more and more, touchscreen kind of capabilities in a retail store. But industrial, what uses are there?
I love that you asked that question, because industrial is another one of my responsibilities for business development in the company. And if you look at even a back of house for a restaurant or a retail location, think about the touchscreens in the kitchen, like bump bars or information that a kitchen needs. Or think about a warehouse, and you have handhelds in a warehouse, which Elo also provides. You have process control. You have machine control. You have access control, building control. So there's a lot of industrial applications, because what we do, we don't provide to a consumer-based customer base. We provide to a customer that's going to integrate our products, and we have a very hardened product for those industries, such as industrial.
And that makes sense. I mean, you need something that's pretty durable. And the other industry you mentioned was healthcare. And that's something that there's always concern, especially, anytime you're touching something, you have to be, that device needs to be sturdy enough to be wiped down and held, sometimes tossle it around, right?
You're right. And there are a lot of rules around healthcare, a lot of regulations and certifications, especially. I mean, think about having to spray down a touchscreen for a surgery. After a surgery is done, you can't have ingress of water, as an example. Or if you have someone operating a touchscreen, whether it's in a patient bedroom or whether it's lab equipment or whether it's in the operating room, you have to make sure that there's not going to be any issue with the power supply and the EMI that's coming from the person, as well as think about an MRI type environment where that's just emitting a ton of power, and a touchscreen is really just a big antenna. So there's a lot you have to be aware of in those types of environments.
Yeah, I didn't realize that a touchscreen, handheld would be a problem around MRIs.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It is interesting. I mean, your touchscreen, like I said, it's a big antenna. There are actually a bunch of wires in that screen that's sensing your input from your finger or tool.
One of the industries that we're here to talk about is the gaming industry. But when we talk about gaming on the show, it's usually in terms of PC gaming technology. But casinos are part of the gaming industry. Is that correct?
So gaming, there are many different aspects to gaming, and you're right. There's the PC gaming, at-home gaming, in your chair, but there's also the casino sports betting as well as lottery gaming. And Elo has been part of gaming for quite some years. We have a line of open frames that we've sold into the casino industry for as long as I've been here, which is almost 10 years.
What's just for reference, what's an open frame?
An open frame is, think of it as a monitor without all the plastics around it. So it's basically a monitor that can be embedded into a larger piece of equipment.
Got it. So would these be the touch screens at the bar, maybe with casino that, you can, you've got gaming machines right there, or?
Yes, for sure. That's one of the areas where you see them. But if you walk up to a slot machine, there's usually two displays on a slot machine. One you are normally interacting with and a second one. And those are mainly open frames that have been around for quite some time. And now things in the casino gaming world have gotten very fancy. They have screens with
they have
S curves and C curves and J curves, and they have integrated lights, and everything is highly customized for those slot machines because it's all about attracting attention.
Right. And yeah, some of those things really, really tower overhead. It's kind of an immersive experience. Now, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but I have found objectively that when you wipe away the bad luck on the screen, yeah, and any gamer, anybody that's been to a casino has seen this happen. Can you verify if that actually works, or give us some hope? At least.
Wiping away the bad luck, of course it works. I'm a big believer in luck, and in casinos for sure. Any luck or hope that we can give an individual, I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, as part of casinos, sports betting, and that's kind of the transition I want to make, because I read a blog that you wrote about how COVID changed everything about casino gaming. I mean, the casino shut down. And so, everything but essential industries were open. That was it. So how did the shutdown of casinos really affect the gaming industry as a whole? And I wonder, was that the impetus for the popularity in sports betting? I mean, I guess I'm not familiar with when the legalization happened in reference to COVID, but I guess tell us a little bit about that.
That's a really good question. And yeah, so let's rewind the clock to 2020 and talk a little bit about when COVID hit. Casinos were shuttered, right? And it was quite some time that they were shuttered. So there was this pent-up demand for wanting to start betting on things or feeling a bit of normalcy, if you will, because everyone knows that it was very abnormal during that time. And what happened was sports betting started to become more popular. And I wouldn't say it was the impetus, or COVID was the impetus, but it was more of a catalyst for sports betting. Sports betting's been in many countries for many years, but in the United States, you would have to go into Atlantic City or Las Vegas or an Indian casino to go into sportsbook and to place a bet, right? With all of that shuttered, now online the rules and regulations started to ease a little bit. And as a result, COVID really catalyzed we'll call it the gaming industry, to move towards sports betting. Now, casinos are back open again. So it's not that the casino industry isn't thriving. It is at this point. But you also have to remember another aspect to this is, think about what the casinos have been trying to do for 10 years. They want a younger audience, right? And they haven't been able to make that shift to a younger demographic. But this sports betting side of things has created that shift towards the younger demographic. So it's creating new markets in a younger demographic for the overall industry.
You don't think about the fact that the consumer base for casinos, it is an older generation, and those customers being replaced with the same enthusiasm, with the same, I guess, base of knowledge. Maybe all of the older generations, and I think up to Gen X at least, that you got away for the weekend to the casino or, whether that was an Indian casino or if it was, maybe even a weekend at Las Vegas or Atlantic City, like you said. But bringing sports betting online, has that kind of reinvigorated casinos in the gaming industry altogether?
I would say they go a little bit hand in hand. Sports betting, if you walk into a casino today, there's a lot of energy around the center of the casino where the sports book is.
Yeah.
It's like a sports bar, right? And you see the draw of customers and crowds towards those, especially on, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when there's a lot of football happening. And if you turn on the TV on the weekend and you're watching an NFL or even a college game, you see also a lot of big names sponsoring those games and that you've heard about for a while, but now you see them everywhere. The FanDuels, the DraftKings, the BetMGMs, the Caesars, and there are a lot of players trying to get into that industry to try to monetize the sports betting outside of and inside those sports books.
Well, so let's talk about some of those other places that sports betting is becoming popular. So Buffalo Wild Wings, I think, is an interesting example of the ability to bring sports betting to more of the mainstream. I guess tell us a little bit about that. I mean, for people who haven't seen that capability, it's not available in all states. What kind of regulations are around it? I guess just tell us a little bit about that offering.
Well, let me back up and say that the sports betting is still very highly regulated from the perspective of how many bets you can place, credit cards you can use to make those sports bets, making sure that you're of age. So there's a lot of verification going on up front. So it's not just walking into a place and placing a bet. But some of the names that I mentioned previously, they've started to buy up casinos and horse tracks and dog tracks, and they've started to put these kiosks, betting kiosks in place in these. And you mentioned Buffalo Wild Wings. I think it's a great example of a hospitality chain that is looking to be very forward thinking and incorporate sports betting into their environment. Think about being in a sports bar on the weekend with your friends. You can bet on your phone, right? But that's not really an experience that it's not a group experience, but
right.
Guys like Buffalo Wild Wings, what they're doing is they're looking to find a way to make this more of a social thing to do. And so you're starting to see large format signage in some of their chains. You're starting to see betting kiosks. And really the next step is having betting machines or betting terminals in individual tables or at the bar, so that think about watching a game and looking at the stats of a running back and making a bet. Is he going to break 100 yards in this game? And all of a sudden you have your friends around you and you're making these bets, and it becomes much more social. Buffalo Wild Wings and others are looking to monetize the sports betting, because right now, if you walk in with your phone, none of that money is flowing through the restaurant.
How did that come about then? Because was Buffalo Wild Wings the first non-gaming establishment to have these terminals? Well,
it's still in process, by the way. There are kiosks that exist today, but really, and if we want to talk about the Holy Grail of sports betting, I'll walk you through an example that I think would resonate. So think about sitting at a table with your friends, and let's say that you're watching a game on the big screen, but let's say that you had a betting terminal that you could also watch a game on at your table. So you want to place a bet with your friends on that terminal, and you do, but at that same terminal, you should be able to also say, listen, I'd like another beer, and order a beer. But what that's going to take, and we're not there yet, but everyone is looking to get to that point. What that's going to take is the integration of point of sale as well as sports betting. And to be able to say, hey, give me another order of wings, or let me place a bet on my team for this weekend, there's going to have to be some integration between companies, software companies that that do this for a living. And I think we just haven't reached it yet.
That is interesting. And to be able to bring those two things together. So how do businesses then bring the success of sports betting to their brick and mortar? And where does Elo come into play?
Well, I think it depends on what the business looks like and what the layout of the business is. It could be that you have kiosks available for people to bet on, or maybe you have just some big screen TV that aren't interactive, and then some that are, in order to look up stats and be able to understand what games are going on and what you can bet on. But what Elo does is we provide the hardware and we enable the hardware for the large format touchscreens. Think about point of sale as well. We're very active in the point of sale industry. And those kiosks that I mentioned, those are always going to have usually a 22-inch or larger touchscreen. And within a business, you're going to have several opportunities to incorporate tech for people to be able to bet on.
So the opportunity for revenue is evident here, but how do Ingram Micro partners and resellers, I guess, translate that to their customers? I mean, their customers largely aren't casinos and racetracks. They may be a restaurant, with a few locations, but I guess where does that opportunity lie, and how does a partner or reseller take advantage of that?
Really good question. With Elo's breadth of product, really, we sell anything from a 7-inch touchscreen up to a 65-inch touchscreen. And then in between, we'll integrate compute, whether it's Android-based, Windows-based, Linux-based. And that gives you a platform to be able to do so much in that brick and mortar type of facility in the hospitality locations, because it allows you to talk to a chain or even a mom and pop shop to be able to integrate a kiosk with Elo technology, or integrate a large format digital signage, or integrate a point of sale. And there's so many things you can do with it, along with those point of sales, as well as we'll call them Android-based computes. We have a whole array of accessories. So if you needed a payment device, we have the ability to integrate the payment device and seamlessly onto it. Or if you needed a fingerprint reader or a scanner, Elo allows you to integrate all those pieces really as kind of Lego blocks to create a system. And that's how the resellers can take advantage of that.
Excellent. Well, as you do start to wrap up our episode, we always ask our guests the same final question, and that's, where do you see technology going in the next year? So I think within this space in particular, where do you see us ending up by 2023?
2023, I see individual, and it's a great question because no one really knows it because it is evolving still. But where I see it is a couple different things, is individual gaming terminals, as we talked about, table side, bar side. But that's not really new. But what I see happening is the artificial intelligence aspect coming in, because each one of these terminals that you're talking about, they have their own compute, and they also have cameras. And to be able to understand who is betting, what they're betting on, and be able to use that data and then target those particular customers with either advertisements or know what kind of bets that they're going to make. I think AI is going to be a huge player in this industry moving forward. And I think that's where we'll see things happening.
I'm convinced that whenever I stand up, the machine knows it, and they may send me a few cents my way, and then I sit back down and I start losing again. So for listeners who have any questions about what we talked about today, how can they reach out?
So if they have any questions about what we talked about, my suggestion is to email teamelo@ingrammicro.com and find out a little bit more about how this industry is evolving.
Excellent. Well, Brian, I appreciate time and all the insight today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Shelby, thank you very much for having me today, and I look forward to future conversations as well.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. If you like this episode or have a question, please join the discussion on Twitter with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Until next time, I'm Shelby Skrhak.
You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.